Hey everybody, Christy Kapp here, creator of DIY Practice Management. Thanks for tuning into this free training on bonus systems. I'm excited to have you join me. Just a quick FYI, I am live in the chat box, but what you're seeing right now is recorded. I've done a bunch of live webinars in the past and realized that when I'm presenting live, I don't get to answer many of your questions since I'm focusing on presenting. So this is recorded. That way you can still get the same valuable presentation, plus a live response to all of your questions. So use that chat box and let me know where you're from and any questions you have as we go. First, I'm going to answer two questions I get asked most. How did I get started and how did I get to where I am today? Then I'm going to talk about what DIY practice management is and why I created it. We're also going to give you a sneak peek at some of the content inside DIY practice management courses by revealing my 4 steps to achieving an effective bonus system and my top 7 secrets for increasing production. Then I'm going to make an exclusive offer at the end for anybody who wants to learn more beyond just this free training session. And to close the training, I'm going to be answering a long list of my most frequently asked questions. I've coached hundreds of dental professionals all across the nation who've had a lot of common questions. So I wrote them all down and will be answering them at the end. You might be wondering, who's this training for? It's geared more towards doctors and practice owners who are struggling to get their employees to help them carry the burden of running the practice, but also towards any dental professionals who are wanting to be the best in their position. So really anyone that loves the business of dentistry and is looking to improve their practice management skills. How long is the webinar? This training is just an hour long. And no, I'm not just pitching my product the whole time. I'm sharing a ton of content from the DIY course. So make sure you're ready to take notes because I won't go slow and every minute will be jam-packed with valuable information. So let's get started. First off, a little bit about me. My name is Christy Kapp, based out of Provo, Utah, and I spent the last 11 years working for 2 of the top name brand consulting firms where I had the opportunity to travel all over the country consulting lots of dental practices and dental professionals. Leading up to my time as a consultant, I was first an assistant for 3 years, a hygienist for 14 years, and as I said, a consultant for 11 years, and then a CEO over 4 practices for 2 years. 30 years of my life have been dedicated to this profession and becoming a practice management expert. So if you take nothing from this training, at least take away the knowledge that things I'm teaching today, if applied, will give you the know-how to take your practice or practice you work for to the next level. In a nutshell, I've learned what it takes to incentivize and reward employees to increase production and profitability and attract and keep long-term patients. And I'm super excited to share my insights with you right now. So let's dive in. How did I get started? At just 15 years old, I started as an assistant in my dad's practice, where I immediately fell in love with the profession and gained a passion for learning everything I could about it. So then I got my hygiene degree, and over the next 20 years, I would have the opportunity to work for 5 different practices, seeing the different ins and outs of each practice. I found there were some systems that worked better than others, and some that didn't work at all. But I didn't just want to know what systems were better, I learned the best systems to implement in any practice to make it as efficient and profitable as possible. So I became a dental consultant for my first firm where I learned even more about the best ways to manage a practice. I taught all that I knew to practices all around the country and helped them grow and become profitable. And when I learned everything I could, I did what I always do. I moved on to the next step in my career and became a CEO of a partnership that owned 4 practices. I dove in headfirst and spent 2 years acquiring and managing practices. We rebranded, remodeled, went chartless, defined roles, bonus systems, and invested in top-notch marketing, which for me at the time was a lot of money. The principle that I wanted my teams to live by, that was a huge part of our success, was to invest in 3 things: your patients, your employees, and the practice. We'll talk about this more later, but know this: you need to be willing to care about the patient, employees, and the business if you want to enjoy your career. So my advice is to make everything you do a win-win-win. A win for the patient, a win for the team, and the win for the business. If you check off all 3 every time you want to implement change in your office, you will have the peace of mind and a successful career. If you can't check off all 3, don't implement that change. Owning Starting my first practice was exciting, but running it was a new level of overwhelming. As my brand grew and we expanded, the responsibilities grew more daunting. Even with everything I learned from my 20 years in dentistry, I was very busy, even though I wasn't even doing clinical work like so many of you owners are. You, like me and many others, probably know a lot about practice management, but personally, I found that making sure the whole team had all of my knowledge at all times was impossible with staff turnover and just being plain busy. I know how it goes. That's why I wanted to give the people a resource that covers the fundamentals of practice management without having to stop production, or you can go at your own pace, and you can make sure new hires get the information they need without demanding a lot of you and your team's time. So I compiled everything I knew. I took the questions I've been asked over and over and all the things that worked for me as a hygienist. Everything I learned as a CEO, covering all the fundamentals one would need to know about how to become their own practice management expert, such as defining the identity of your practice, leadership and hierarchy, the different systems of dentistry. We will cover HR, marketing, scheduling, restorative team responsibilities, hygiene team responsibilities, admin team responsibilities, profitable team meetings, team motivation, plus even more bonus content. Hours of video that's growing every week as I'm always adding more to it to keep the learning relevant and up to date. We will talk more about the full program at the end, but what I want to do now is to dive into some of the content inside the program and give you as much free training as I can in our time remaining. We're going to dive into my 4 steps to achieving an effective bonus system. So step 1, make sure you follow the 7 keys to a proper bonus system. Number 1, first key, it needs to incentivize your team to give their very best every single day. 2, get the team to take an interest in the success of the practice. Key 3, it must be a win-win-win, a win for the patient, win for the practice, and a win for the employees. If any one of those falls short, it can create employee resentment and hold back the success of the practice. For example, if only the employees win and get their bonus, but the owner can't pay the bills, the owner's going to get resentful. On the flip side, if the owner wins and goes on a trip to Hawaii, buys a new RV and a second home, but claims the practice has no money, the employees get resentful and revert back to minimum behavior, ultimately sabotaging the success of the practice. Only when all 3 are winning does a bonus system become effective. Key 4, the bonus needs to be large enough to mean something to the team. Key 5, not so large that the doctor or the owner or the significant other of the owner feels bitter about it. Key 6, it needs to be as close to immediate positive reinforcement as possible. Douglas Wick, owner of Positioning Systems, said this: many organizations think about frequency in terms of annual performance appraisals, annual recognition dinners, quarterly bonuses, or Employee of the Month. This type of low frequency of reinforcement has little or no impact on company performance. Often it fails to meet any of the rules listed here, let alone frequency. Positive reinforcement needs to be a daily affair. Bonuses need to immediately correlate to the behavior that earned them. If they reinforce good behavior, the team will quickly remember what they did or didn't do to get the bonus or not get it. Neither the team or the owner should have any question when a bonus didn't come. The numbers show why in a simple way everyone will understand. Last key, number 7, bonuses must allow change. Once a year, you should set a new goal, especially as the fees need to be increased, and set a new parameter to the bonus system when setting these goals. These parameters must be announced and communicated at least 2 months in advance, or you're going to have a mutiny on your hands. I've seen incredible teams break up over unannounced changes. If you stick to the rule, you can grow onward and upward, even in the midst of staff changes or even economic changes. Now, warning, archaic systems like the 3-month average of collections or complicated formulas and bonuses that are left to chance do not follow these keys. I urge you not to use them. 3-month average of collections is a bonus system where the collection goal is devised based on fixed costs, and the team only gets a bonus 1 month if it exceeds the 3-month average of collections. And that seems fair to the owner if a practice has a great month in August and a horrible month in September, but the 3-month average of collections is delayed reinforcement. It will never reinforce or improve behavior. Teams forget what they did in the good month and what they didn't do in the bad months, and they just throw up their hands to chance and hope for a bonus. Not to mention, it is only a partial win for the owner, because the owner will lose the opportunity to consistently and successfully reach a steadied, continued growth. If you're not careful, complicated formulas can punish good behavior. An office I consulted bonused their hygienists on gross production, then took away electric toothbrush sales, mouthwash sales, PPO write-offs, and on and on and on. A list of about 25 things. And guess what? The hygienist stopped doing. She stopped taking the time to educate patients on home care needs, and she cut corners on PPO patients. The employees should only have to focus on one thing: working hard. If your team doesn't get their bonus because supply costs are up that month, that's a problem. There are times when supply costs go up because the team did a ton of dentistry and they worked really hard. Do you really want to punish that behavior? Sometimes the employees in charge of ordering supplies just need help from your supply rep. They are there to help them with that. That's what you pay them for. Finally, let's talk about bonuses that are left to chance. They don't incentivize the team or reinforce change. Again, employees get discouraged when they rocked it yesterday, but they only have a 1 in 12 chance of a decent reward. I've seen teams that draw from a hat next morning in huddle meeting, and there's something like 10 $5 bills and 2 $50 bills and 1 $100 bills. As an employee, a chance of getting a $100 bill doesn't reinforce behavior. Great employees will get discouraged if they don't win, and lazy employees won't improve if they do. In a nutshell, an effective bonus system must follow these 7 keys. Bonuses must have a clear and immediate correlation to an employee's behavior, so they know what to correct when things get off course, and what to repeat next month to have the same success. If a bonus system doesn't follow these keys, things will never improve. Moving on to step number 2, set monthly and daily goals with bonuses in mind. The bonus system I love is giving $20 to each employee for hitting the daily production goal, and another $20 if they hit a daily over-the-counter collection goal. I have tested different amounts to give employees. I started out with $5 for hitting the daily production goal, and another $5 for hitting the over-the-counter collections goal each day. That just didn't seem enough to get them as engaged as I wanted. So then I tried $10 for each of them, then $20 for production, and $20 for over-the-counter collection seems to be the most engaging. With that in mind, before you offer a bonus system, you need to figure out where your monthly collection goal needs to be each month to account for the potential bonuses. The way I find this is by taking what you need to collect per year in fixed costs and divide that by 12 months to see what you need to collect each month. Let's say you need to make $840,000 a year. Divide that by 12 months, and that equals a fixed cost of $70,000 a month on average you need to collect. Now let's add the potential of bonuses. The number of employees times the number of working days each month multiplied by a potential bonus of $40 for each day will give you the max potential bonus for every month. Let's say you have 12 employees that work 16 days a month. That would equal 192 employee working days. Multiply 192 by $40, and that would equal an $8,000 in potential bonuses you need to pay out every month. Don't forget to include the associates and owners in this formula. It doesn't make sense to not bonus everyone. Add that $8,000 in potential bonuses to your fixed cost of $70,000 a month, and you'll have a collection goal of $78,000. This method of accounting for bonuses will help you feel confident and happy paying bonuses when you collect your goal. If your PPO and average 25% write-offs, then your gross production goal needs to be $104,000 to allow for the 25% write-offs to get that $78,000 in collectible production. If you are a fee-for-service practice and only write off a few charity cases, then your collection goal will be much closer to your production because your write-off percentage is smaller. Keep the numbers simple for your employees. Just round up a little bit to give them a simple target. Now that you have your monthly goals, you need to figure out your daily goals. To find your daily collection goal, take your monthly collection goals and divide it by the number of working days that month. In our example of working 16 days a month, take the $78,000 collection goal and divide it by 16. That equals equals $4,875. That's your daily collection goal. Then divide your monthly gross production goal by the number of working days, and you will get your daily gross production goal. Continuing our example, $104,000 divided by 16 working days, and your gross production goal equals $6,500 per day. If the team reached your daily goals, they get to bonus. 20 if you reach production goal, and 20 if you reach the over-counter collection goal. The potential for $40 per day times 16 days a month is potentially $640 extra dollars for each employee. It is ideal if the team is trained on their roles and responsibilities so they already know the behavior needed to increase production or same-day collections. But if that hasn't happened yet, start anyway. It will speed up the success of the practice. Employees will stay engaged in learning. You'll be surprised how innovative your team becomes. When employees' expectations are high but rewards are low, people get disgruntled. When expectations are low and rewards are low, employees become complacent. When expectations are low but rewards are high, employees become entitled. But when expectations are high and rewards are high, employees become innovative. I have witnessed all of these behaviors in teams all around the country, and I can tell you teams do become innovative when roles are defined and expectations are communicated. And when those expectations are met, owners are amazed and grateful at what their team and their employees are not only doing for them, but what they are innovating for them. Step 3, adjust your goals for shorter months and multiple providers. There are 2 ways for adjusting goals for shorter workday months, such as February and December often are shorter months. The first is to make daily goals higher in those months by dividing your regular goal by the lower working day number. For example, 78,000 divided by 12 working days instead of 16 equals a daily goal of 6,500 per day instead of 4,875. The second way is to work more days in the months prior with the same daily goal. For example, in November, you work 5 days a week for 3 weeks plus 2 days the week of Thanksgiving, and you get 18 working days for November. Then you only need to work 14 in December to average those 16 days for both. Either one works. I had my offices every January look at the entire calendar, and knowing we needed an average of 16 days a month, we worked more some months and less in other months to allow for doctor vacation and holidays. The 4.5 weeks per month average allows for plenty of time for vacation. On to adjusting goals for multiple providers. To do this, you will need to figure out the daily goal for each provider. It might be larger for the veteran doctor and lower for an associate that's less experienced. You need to figure out the goal for each hygienist as well. A hygienist should produce at least 3 times their hourly daily salary for you to be profitable in that department. However, if you have 25% write-offs, the hygienist should produce 4 times their daily salary to account for the actual production that can be collected, or net production. Make their goal off gross production always. You don't want your team shortchanging the PPO patient or cutting corners. Example, if a hygienist makes $40 an hour or $320 a day, if it's a fee-for-service practice where you net and gross production are the same, multiply that by 3. 40 times 3 equals $120 an hour in production goal, or $320 per day times 3 equals a $960 per day in production goal. If you're in a PPO office with 25% write-offs, multiply it by 4 instead. So $40 an hour times 4 equals $160 per hour, or 320 daily wage times 4 equals $1,280 for a daily production goal per hygienist. I hope all your hygienists are producing $1,200 to $1,500 a day if they work a single room with no assistant. A common example for a bonus system is for a 1-doctor practice with 2 hygienists. The goal for 2 hygienists a day would be higher than a day with just 1. I have 4 forms you can download with an example that we used each month where the team could see how many times they had bonused in 1 doctor, 1 hygienist practice, or a 1 doctor, 2 hygienist practice. Also for examples for a fee-for-service and 1 for PPO, where the production goal had to be higher to collect the same amount. Make sure Your individual provider goals are attainable. If your hygiene team is only producing $800 a day range, but are making $50 an hour, you will want to watch our courses on increasing production as soon as possible. You will notice the collection column says over-the-counter collections. The collection goal was based on over-the-counter collections. This office was a very high PPO, so over-the-counter collections was what the team could control each day and prevented an automatic bonus on Mondays when mail comes in for Saturday and Monday, and when we got more checks. The over-the-counter goal was set at 40% of overall collection goal. Our 7 tips for increasing production and profitability will cover how to reach that goal. We will be discussing those later on. Step 4, create activity bonuses. If your best employees think $640 a month isn't enough, give them another opportunity. Some of your team members will jump all over these opportunities and some will not. I have no problem bonusing these rockstar employees more if I can prove there's a reason to do so. An activity bonus is a bonus given to an employee for going the extra mile. For example, if a team member noticed we had a cancellation or extra time in the schedule and knew a patient coming in that day needed more treatment than scheduled, and then recommended to the patient that we could save them a trip by combining appointments, that team member would get an extra $10 just for offering it. The assistant or the hygienist willing to set up and help do the procedure also gets an activity bonus of $10. No one, however, gets anything if a form isn't filled out by the employee, if financial arrangements aren't made, and the TC doesn't sign off on the activity bonus form. All 3 of these things must be done to get the activity bonus. It's important that the right people get credit and that the patient understands the change in financial responsibility for that day. On the form provided below, you can change bonus amounts and what the bonus is for based on the procedure or dollar amount. It also has some verbiage at the bottom of the form to help you know what to say if there's time and a chair and providers available to do additional work that day. I have had many clients use these, and both teams and owners felt the system was fair for them and the team, and it helped them with continued growth and employee engagement for years. In the DIY course, I also address employee contests and incentives depending on your state laws, as well as payment compensation for associate doctors and hygienists. The latter can really skyrocket practice growth. So there it is. Those are my 4 steps for achieving an effective bonus system. Knowing them simply isn't enough though. You gotta get out and actually practice these and learn them. Practice makes perfect. Now real quick, I want to shift gears and talk about how to actually increase production once you've implemented an effective bonus system. What I've found is most offices can perfect their bonus systems, but still have to learn by trial and error what behavior actually helps them reach their goal. Thankfully, I have figured it out, so I want to share some of my insights with you. So let's jump right in. Here are my 7 tips for increasing production and profitability. Tip 1, airtight financial arrangements. But be sure to offer a lot of options. Getting a signed financial plan will keep those insurance checks and third-party payments coming in consistently. Tip 2, quote patient portion fees, especially in the hygiene department. This is such a big part of completing financial arrangements. Patients will leave your practice or worse, maybe even sue you if you perform any dentistry before informing them of their financial responsibility. Tip 3, handoffs to the front desk. The better I articulate to the admin team member what we did today and what we need to do next time, the more comfortable the patient is to pay. The best verbiage here is, will you get my patient a receipt for today? That's code for, you're responsible to pay your portion today, which I hope was signed off on in their patient forms. Tip 4, same-day dentistry. If you have time and the team members are willing to do additional dentistry, patients will love to not have to come back. But if you try and pull this off without informing the patient of financial responsibility, it will backfire. You will hit production goals, but not collection goals, and you will lose patients. Tip 5, know the fundamentals of scheduling for production. I cover 2 different schools of thought on this in more depth in my scheduling course. For now, just be sure you don't just schedule for the patient's convenience, or you will be miserable, overworked, and underpaid. In my scheduling course, I go over the fundamentals for scheduling to production and how to level up if you're ready. Tip 6, look for high production opportunities. You might be good at crowns, cosmetic, implants, ortho, or offer sedation dentistry. All these niches can be a good way to increase production, but often we lose focus focus and forget to look for these opportunities. Sometimes you can have a contest for the team. Offer them a gift if they hit a certain number of a procedure per month, like sealants. It works and could be a reward for any procedure that the team has lost focus on. Tip 7, productive exams and the patient experience. These are key to the patient scheduling what you present. Explaining the benefits and addressing objections of getting the procedure done now rather than later. Often patients say no or not yet to treatment because of time, money, pain, or they just don't see the value of getting it done. Make sure you ask the patient questions to find out if any of these things are an issue for your patients. So there you have it. My 7 tips for increasing production and profitability. And that's just some of the ways I've helped practices grow. So now I want to dive into DIY practice management to give you an idea of what the full program includes. For anyone who enjoys my teaching style, has gotten a lot of value out of this webinar, and would like to learn a whole lot more. Again, this training is only an hour long, and the DIY course has tons more video content, and I'm adding new content to it every month. So as far as content goes, here is a quick look at the topics I will cover. The first section is all about identity. Who are you and what do you want to achieve? Let me be clear. This course is not about making you into someone you're not. I didn't like consultants that made me become something that I wasn't comfortable with, like hard selling specific services that the patient didn't want or need. This course is designed to start off helping you discover how to service the patient's individual needs and find out what your happy place looks like, where you want to be most successful, and communicating all of this with your team. It is crucial to define your identity before you can move on to nailing down where you want to end up. Knowing how to evaluate basic metrics to find the low-hanging fruit in your practice, then setting a course to get there. Our second section is leadership. It's easier than you think. If you are the owner, know this. You write the checks. Consultants, we don't. When I'm on site as a consultant, teams look to the owner for are we really going to implement this look? I used to do that as a hygienist when consultants came to our practice. Teams will not buy into these videos without being led by you. Some people are natural leaders and some are not. It doesn't matter. Just a few traits will help you become someone people want to follow. If you are not the owner, but are a clinical or admin team member, this section is just as important for you because it will help you be a leader in your position. In the third section, we dive into training. Here we cover the fundamentals of DIY practice management. As we go forward, you will see steady progress towards your goals. When speed bumps come along the way, such as team turnover, you will have the resources to get back on track. There are 8 main sections that everyone needs to be trained on. There is a higher level of teamwork when the clinical team knows what the admin team is trained on, and vice versa. So I recommend all team members watch all the courses. The training section will cover HR, and I put this first because there's a liability if it's done wrong. I like to outsource this to experts. It's not worth putting on one employee that might not stay and train the next one correctly. Be diligent with your relationship with who you outsource to. That being said, we will help with a few things like employee manuals and hiring and firing. This is so important. And training your employees to protect your brand by setting up expectations. What do they need to master in 3 days, 3 months, and 3 weeks? What level of friendliness, grooming, punctuality do you expect? Next in our training section would be marketing. Outsource this or in-house. Marketing always is a hard thing to measure. Customers need 13 interactions with your brand before they act. I'll show you what we focused on in my partnership practices to increase new patients, what worked and what didn't. Next in our training section would be scheduling. There are 2 schools of thought on scheduling. I'll teach both of them to you and you can decide where you're at. We will cover in detail the doctor schedule and the hygiene schedule. Training the restorative team. We will talk about 6 steps to increase doctor's production and assistant training, which will include room and tray setups. So many offices run behind because room and tray setups are not done properly. Time is is money, people. Sterilization protocol and data responsibilities, which relate to key customer service practices. We also talk about the hygiene department. This is not a necessary evil department just to diagnose restorative work. Let your hygienist promote prevention and soft tissue management, as well as restorative and cosmetic procedures. A hygienist can take a lot of work off the doctor's plate and give him or her back to the restorative patient when trained correctly. Here we will cover what a true prophy looks like. Soft tissue management appointments made simple. The patient experience. This is a huge key to the success of the practice. Once you and your team get this down, you will have more diagnosed dentistry that gets scheduled and paid for. Details include phone calls, greeting, data gathering, preheating the patient, handoffs to the doctor, full mouth diagnosis, case presentation, and the close. Then we move into the handoff number 2 to the admin team. Financial arrangements. Assisted, not accelerated hygiene. And is it for you and your hygienist and your patients? Additional data responsibilities which relate to key customer service practices. Then we move into administration team training. Classes here will include phone skills, continuing care options and systems, cancellation protocol, new patient data gathering, managing online reviews, insurance issues, and 4 steps to increasing collections, managing accounts receivable. And should I outsource any of this so my team can focus on the patients? The next section would be on team meetings made short and easy. I show you how often you should have these meetings and an agenda to use that will actually make you want to attend the team meetings. We will cover huddle meetings, weekly meetings, department meetings, partnership meetings, and yearly kickoff meetings, and in-office communication apps that make meetings shorter. Also, we will teach your team to read their own key performance indicators on the dashboard and what to do when improvement is needed. I will show you how basic numbers can be fun. Then in the team motivation section, we will cover more on bonus systems, contests with your team, and you'll be surprised how much you can motivate your team for a little or no investment. We also have bonus material that covers practice expansion and products I love, and video content of me in-house with some of my clients. So there it is. That is what DIY Practice Management course includes. It is a lifetime membership, so there's only one upfront cost, and you will have access to all the current content and future content for life. You can watch at your own pace, from your phone or computer. And just that alone, just the content that exists in this course right now, it is worth more than a full year of consulting, which would cost you upwards of 30 grand. So without further ado, we will finally get to the price of the full program. And as promised, I'll be offering an exclusive webinar discount for those of you that have hung around to the end of this training. I currently have it priced at $1,000, but as an early bird special, while the program is still growing, I'm selling it for just $6.99. But as an even better offer, as a webinar discount only, for the first 5 people to join in the next 20 minutes, they will get an additional 25% off. I'm going to go ahead and pull up the offer. Like I said, this offer is good for the next 20 minutes. And here we go. So there's the offer. Again, we only have 5 coupon codes available at this discounted price. It's first come, first serve. So if you're thinking about joining, now would be the time to do so. And while that offer is ticking, I'll be answering some of the top questions I get asked during these webinars. So feel free to ask questions in the chat box. I may answer your questions via my voice, or I may answer you in the chat box. So pay attention to both. First question I'm always asked is, when do you pay out the bonus? There are a couple options here with pros and cons to both. The most effective way is to hand out actual cash at the end of the day. I experienced this as a hygienist and loved it. It was the most immediate, positive reinforcement you can get. Not to mention, we love the high fives at the end of the day. That's a huge advantage. The disadvantages are 1, tax issues. You must tell your team this is taxable and that it will come out of their paychecks. There are some employees that don't mind and love the immediate reinforcement of cash, but I've found the majority of employees like the extra cash, but don't like that their automatic deposit becomes smaller. They just hate reconciling that they did make more money, but their actual deposit was smaller. The second disadvantage is having to run fund, get cash, and keep it in a safe in the offices. Some owners are uncomfortable with that, and it's just one more thing to do. So you and your team decide if you're willing to deal with those two issues. If you are, your production and collection will skyrocket immediately and consistently. If you decide as a team those two issues are deal breakers, no problem. This is common and okay. You can create the positive immediate reinforcement by reporting to the team each day in a huddle meeting or over a group chat or group text, whether you hit your production and collection goals or not, and keep a running total for the team where they can see it each day. That way the team can remember the day and the behavior and repeat it. Then the bonus comes once a month in their paycheck. In a one doctor practice, I would delegate to this one person to track this and report to the owner before payday. In a multi-doctor practice, you might delegate one person per doctor to be in charge of reporting to someone higher up. Another question is, what is your favorite dashboard? There are a lot out there. I like Dental Intel the best. It's slightly more expensive, but I think it's worth it. They have the key KPIs that I'm looking for to change behavior. Another dashboard is Henry Schein. There are lots out there, but those are probably my two favorite. It needs to be a good interface that's simple and graphic and easy to look for. If it's just a bunch of Excel spreadsheets, don't use them. You need to see at a glance where you're at. Some dashboards will manage and help you see how many calls you've missed. Most will. I hope they do. If you don't, you might want to change to one that does. However, there's also a program out there, some software from a company called Weave that I love. It really helps your business admin team. It shows who's calling, what their name is, their picture, if they have an appointment or not. It pops up right on their screen as the phone rings. So take a look at the company Weave. I really, really like them. I think your business admin team will love them. Another frequently asked question I get is, how do I manage my online reviews? A lot of times people are afraid to ask for a rating and if they can post it to Google or Yelp. A company I really like that helps with that is a company called Podium. They will manage your social media presence. So take a look and look up Podium. Next question. If I have specific questions, would I be able to email you those questions? Absolutely, I would love it. Any questions you have, you can have my personal email address that you can send me questions and I will usually reply within a few days. And speaking of questions, hopefully I've answered most of yours in this training. If I didn't cover some of your questions, feel free to email me at christycap@DIYpracticemanagement.com and I'll get around to those as soon as I can. Also, if you have any other questions or doubts about whether this program is right for you, shoot me an email. I'm super accessible. Let's chat about your situation and see what we can do to help. But that's it. Thanks for stopping by. And if you have any other questions, please let me know. Our offer is officially ended, so procrastinators or people having payment issues, reach out to me at ChristyCapp@DIYPracticeManagement.com. Thanks again for tuning in. You can follow me on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. That way you can keep up to date on what's going on with DIY. And I want to wish all of you the best of luck in your practice management endeavors.